The hall was silent. 1,000 eyes watched as the human entered. The walls were made of black stone, tall and cold, shining with strange blue fire. At the center stood the alien overlord, taller than any human, with silver skin and burning red eyes. His voice echoed like thunder. "Choose one of my girls, human." 7 figures stepped forward. They were all different, all strange, yet all beautiful in alien ways. 6 of them looked strong, tall, powerful. Their bodies glowed with energy. Their arms carried weapons, their eyes burned with pride. But the 7th? She was small, thin, almost fragile. She lowered her head and did not speak. Her hands trembled and her steps were weak. The human looked at them. His heart was beating fast, but his face stayed calm. He knew this was a test. The aliens wanted to see what he would choose. To them, humans were weak. To them, this was only a game. But to him, it was life and death. The overlord smiled, sharp teeth flashing. 6 are strong. 6 are ready for war. 1 is nothing. 1 is a shadow. Which one will you take? Whispers filled the hall. Other warriors from many worlds were watching. They laughed, they pointed, they whispered insults. To them, the choice was simple. Take the strongest, the fastest, the one who could fight and win. Only a fool would take the weak one. The human's eyes moved from one girl to another. The first girl's arms were like steel, her eyes glowing red. She looked like she could break a mountain in half. The second had speed. Her feet barely touched the floor, her breath quick as fire. The third carried a blade that hummed with deadly energy, her smile cruel. The 4th and 5th stood proud like queens, glowing with power. The 6th's body shined with light as if stars lived under her skin. And then there was the 7th. She stood apart, her head low, her hair falling across her face. She did not look at him. She did not glow, did not shine, did not carry weapons. She looked weak, so weak that even the shadows seemed stronger than her. The overlord's voice grew louder. "Choose, human, do not waste my time." The human walked closer. He looked into each girl's eyes. He saw strength, hunger, and cruelty in the first 6. They would fight for themselves, not for him. But when his eyes reached the 7th, something stopped him. She did not look at him, but he felt something. A strange calmness like still water hiding deep secrets. The warriors around him laughed louder. "He is afraid," one said. "He cannot choose," another shouted. "Pick the strong one, human, or you will die in the first trial." The overlord leaned forward, his red eyes glowing. "Which one, human? Strength, speed, fire, or weakness?" The human breathed deep. His voice was steady when he spoke. "I choose her." The hall went silent. Then an explosion of laughter. The sound shook the black walls. Warriors slapped their knees. Some even fell to the ground, laughing at his choice. The overlord's smile twisted into something darker. "You choose the weakest? The useless one?" He shook his head. "You are either very brave or very stupid." The girl slowly raised her head. For the first time, the human saw her eyes. They were not weak at all. They were deep, dark, and endless, like a night sky full of hidden stars. For one moment, he thought she looked at him with sadness. For another moment, he thought she looked at him with warning. The overlord raised his hand and the laughter stopped. "Very well. You have made your choice. But know this, your path is now harder. She will not save you. She will destroy you." The human did not answer. He only nodded and stepped back. The girl followed him, her steps small, almost silent. As they left the hall, whispers chased them. "He is doomed. The weakest will kill him. He will not last the first trial." But the human did not listen. His mind was sharp, his heart steady. He had seen something in her eyes, something the others had missed. And though the world believed she was nothing, he felt she was more than everything. The door closed behind them, heavy as stone. The trials would begin soon, and with every step the human knew one truth. His choice would change everything. The chamber door closed behind them, shutting out the voices and laughter of the crowd. For a long moment, the human walked in silence. The girl followed behind, her steps soft, almost soundless. She did not speak. She did not even look at him. She seemed smaller than before, as if the weight of the world pressed on her thin shoulders. The hallways were lit with pale blue fire. The human stole glances at her while they walked. Her hair was long and dark, hanging loose around her face. Her hands trembled slightly, as though even holding them steady was a burden. Her clothes were simple, plain, while the other girls had been dressed in glowing armor and fine cloth. She looked like someone forgotten, someone unwanted. At last, the human spoke. "What is your name?" She did not answer right away. For a moment, he thought she would remain silent forever. But then, in a voice soft as falling rain, she whispered, "Lyra." The name lingered in the cold air. He nodded. "I am Kale." She only gave the smallest nod, her eyes fixed on the ground. Her silence was heavy but not empty. It was a silence that carried secrets. They entered a chamber where warriors from other worlds waited. The room was large, the floor covered in black stone, the ceiling lost in shadows. The other fighters stood tall, proud, their chosen companions glowing with energy. When Kale and Lyra entered, all eyes turned to them. Smirks spread across their faces. "There he is," one warrior said, his voice mocking. "The fool who picked the weakest." Laughter followed, sharp and cruel. Some pointed at Lyra, shaking their heads in disbelief. She lowered her gaze even more, her hands clutching the edge of her simple dress. Kyle ignored them, though inside he felt the heat of their scorn. He sat down against the wall while Lyra quietly sat near him, keeping distance but never too far. A warrior with burning red skin leaned forward. His chosen girl, tall and strong with glowing arms, stood beside him like a weapon ready to strike. "Why?" the warrior demanded. "Why throw away your chance? You could have taken a blade. You could have taken fire. Instead, you take that?" Kyle's eyes stayed calm. "Because strength is not always what it seems." More laughter. "Then you will die with your little shadow, human," the red-skinned warrior spat. Kyle said no more. He looked at Lyra. She had not moved, had not spoken. Yet for a brief second, he thought he saw her eyes shift, quick and sharp, as if she had heard something no one else could. Hours passed. The room grew quieter as warriors prepared for the first trial. Kyle rested his head against the wall, but he did not sleep. He kept his eyes on Lyra. She seemed fragile, weaker than anyone he had ever seen, yet something about her did not fit. She sat perfectly still, her breathing steady, her face calm. Weak bodies usually trembled. Weak hearts usually panicked. But not hers. When the call finally came, the chamber doors opened. A booming voice filled the air. "Warriors, prepare. The first trial begins at dawn." The fighters rose, some stretching, some sharpening weapons, their companions glowing with fierce energy. Kale stood as well, and Lyra rose silently beside him. Her movements were small, almost shy, yet there was grace in them, an unspoken rhythm, like water flowing quietly in a hidden stream. As they walked toward the great gate, Kale leaned closer to her. "You are not afraid?" he asked. For the first time, she looked directly at him. Her eyes were deep, dark, and endless. "I have always been afraid," she said softly. "But fear is not new to me. Fear is normal." Her words surprised him. There was no weakness in them, only truth. Before he could speak again, the gate opened and the cold wind of the outside world rushed in. The warriors stepped out into the alien forest. The sky was gray, swirling with strange clouds. The trees were tall and black, their branches twisting like claws. Shadows moved in the mist. Strange sounds echoed in the distance. Growls, whispers, the low hum of creatures that were not meant to be seen. The strong warriors marched forward with confidence, their chosen girls leading the way. Some carried glowing blades. Others unleashed bursts of fire and light. They laughed as if the forest were nothing. Kale and Lyra walked slower. Her steps were light, careful. After only a few minutes, she stopped suddenly. "Not this way," she whispered. Kale frowned. "Why?" Her eyes shifted toward the shadows. "Because death waits there." He looked. He saw nothing, only mist and trees. But something in her voice made him listen. He nodded and turned in another direction. Moments later, a beast burst from the shadows where they would have walked, its teeth sharp, its claws dripping with black venom. It tore through the ground before vanishing back into the mist. Kyle's heart raced. He looked at her. She was calm, her eyes steady. She had known, he whispered. "Who are you, really?" She did not answer. She only looked ahead, her face unreadable, her voice low. "The weakest," she said. But in her eyes, Kale saw something else. Something stronger than fear. Something even the Overlord might fear. The forest swallowed them whole. Mist curled between the trees like living breath, twisting around roots and stones. The black branches clawed at the sky, and every sound carried too far. The crack of a twig, the hiss of unseen creatures, the pounding footsteps of warriors. The first trial had begun. Kale walked carefully, his eyes alert. Beside him, Lyra moved quietly, almost like a shadow drifting across the ground. She was small and fragile compared to the other girls, yet her calm steps made less noise than his. Ahead, the warriors charged forward with pride. Their chosen companions burned with power. One girl shot flames from her hands, lighting the trees in orange fire. Another cut beasts in half with a blade that hummed with deadly light. They roared with victory, confident that strength alone would win. But Cale noticed the forest was not simple. The trees twisted in strange shapes, their bark carved with symbols that pulsed faintly. The mist seemed to move against the wind. Sometimes he thought he heard whispers calling his name, though no one stood near. He glanced at Lyra. She did not look frightened. Instead, her eyes moved from tree to tree, from shadow to shadow, like she was reading a language no one else could see. Suddenly, she stopped. Her hand shot out and touched his arm. "Do not step there," she whispered. Kyle froze. He looked down. The ground ahead looked normal, only dirt and fallen leaves. "Why?" he asked. Her voice was soft but steady. "The ground is hungry." He crouched, studying the spot. At first, nothing. Then, as if her words had called it, the dirt shifted. A mouth opened in the earth, filled with rows of needle teeth snapping shut with a hiss. The leaves vanished into the jaws of the forest floor. Cale pulled back, heart racing. He looked at her in shock. She had saved his life again. Lyra's face was calm. "The forest speaks," she said. "It tells me where not to go." Cale wanted to ask more, but a scream cut through the mist. Ahead, one of the proud warriors was gone, swallowed whole by a beast that rose from the shadows. The others fought desperately, blades and fire flashing. The ground shook with their battle cries. "Stay close," Cale whispered. They moved carefully, guided by her strange warnings. Sometimes she told him to step left when he saw nothing. Sometimes she told him to stop when the path looked safe. Every time she was right. Invisible traps snapped where they would have walked. Poisonous vines struck from the trees where they might have passed. She led him through the danger like a secret map only she could read. As they moved deeper, Cale realized something strange. The other warriors, strong and fierce, were falling one by one. Their strength blinded them. They ran too fast, struck too hard, and did not see the hidden threats. But he and Lyra, weak by every outside measure, were still alive. After hours of walking, they reached a clearing. The mist thinned, and in the center stood a pool of black water, still as glass. Around it, stones rose in a perfect circle, carved with glowing runes. The air vibrated with power. "This is the heart of the trial," Cale murmured. Before he could move, Lyra grabbed his wrist. Her eyes widened for the first time. "No," she whispered. "Not yet. They are watching." Cale followed her gaze. Across the clearing, shadows moved, figures hidden, waiting. Then from the mist, the red-skinned warrior stepped forward, his glowing companion beside him. His eyes burned with fury. "You live still, human?" he snarled. "With her." He spat the word like poison. "You shame us all." Kyle tightened his grip on his weapon. "Step aside." "The trial is not finished," the warrior laughed, cruel and loud. "You think you reached this place by your own strength? No, she led you. That fragile thing. She's a curse, not a gift, and curses must be broken." He raised his hand. His companion's arms lit with red fire, flames swirling in deadly waves. The heat scorched the clearing. Kyle stepped in front of Lyra, ready to fight. But before he could strike, Lyra whispered something. Her voice was calm, but her eyes glowed faintly, like hidden stars awakening. "Behind you," she said. The red-skinned warrior spun too late. From the shadows, a beast lunged, massive and dark, its claws sharp as blades. It tore into him, dragging him screaming into the mist. His companion shrieked, fire dying in her hands as she vanished with him. Silence fell. Only the pool remained, black and still. Cale looked at Lyra. She stood quietly, her face unreadable, but her eyes glowed faintly with that strange light. He whispered, "How did you know?" She met his gaze, her voice soft but strong. "Because the forest speaks to me, and I speak back." For the first time, Cale felt a chill run through him. Not from the forest, not from the beasts, but from her. The weakest girl was not weak at all. She was something far more dangerous, something extraordinary. The black pool rippled once and went still again as though nothing had happened. The red-skinned warrior was gone. The clearing was silent except for Cale's breath. He tightened his grip on his blade, his eyes scanning the shadows. But no more beasts came. Only the mist swirled, thick and restless. Beside him, Lyra stood perfectly calm. Her dark hair clung to her pale face, her eyes fixed on the pool. The glow he had seen in them before was faint now, like fading embers. She looked fragile again, almost too weak to stand. Yet Cale could not forget what she had done, how she had seen danger before it struck, how she had saved him again and again. "Lyra," he whispered, stepping closer. "What are you?" She did not look at him. Her gaze remained on the black water. "I told you," she said softly. "I am the weakest." "No," Kyle said, his voice firm. "We cannot see what you see. We cannot hear the forest. You are something else." Her lips trembled as if she wanted to deny it, but her silence betrayed her. She turned away, moving slowly toward the pool. Her steps were graceful, almost weightless, as though the earth itself held her carefully. Cale followed, uneasy. "You saved me," he pressed. "More than once. Tell me how." At last she looked at him. Her eyes were endless dark, but not empty, full of secrets, full of shadows. "I feel things," she said quietly. "Things others cannot. The forest, the beasts, even the stones. They speak to me. They show me where death waits." Kyle frowned. "Speak to you how?" Her voice lowered, as though the mist itself might be listening. "I don't know. Since I was a child, I could hear whispers in places others thought silent. I could see paths where no one else could. It frightened them. They said I was cursed." Kyle thought of the Overlord's mocking words, of the laughter in the hall. The others called her useless, but perhaps it was because they feared her. Before he could reply, the pool shimmered. Ripples spread across its surface, glowing faintly with blue light. Lyra stiffened. Her eyes widened, not in fear, but in recognition. "They are watching," she whispered. Cale glanced around. "Who?" Her gaze lifted to the sky, hidden by gray clouds. "Him, the Overlord. He sees us even now." A cold shiver ran down Cale's spine. He tightened his grip on his blade, though he knew steel would not cut through the eyes of an Overlord. The air shifted. Across the clearing, the mist parted, and a new group of warriors stumbled in. 2 were bloodied, their chosen companions wounded. One carried the body of another, lifeless and pale. Their eyes fell on Cale and Lyra, and their faces hardened. "You," one snarled. His arm was cut deep, blood soaking his sleeve. "You reached the pool first." His gaze flicked to Lyra. "Because of her." The others muttered agreement, their eyes burning with jealousy and rage. To them, Cale had no right to stand there alive while they bled. Cale lifted his blade, stepping in front of Lyra. "Stay back." But before the warriors could charge, Lyra stepped forward. Her small figure seemed too fragile, too breakable, and yet when her lips parted, the air itself grew heavy. "Stop." Her voice was soft, but it carried through the clearing like thunder. The warriors froze, their eyes widening. Cale felt it too, the sudden weight pressing down on him as though invisible chains wrapped around his chest. The runes carved into the stones flared with blue light, answering her voice. The black pool boiled, bubbles breaking the surface. The ground trembled under their feet. Cale stared at her, stunned. "Lyra, what are you doing?" Her face twisted with pain. She clutched her head, as though fighting something inside her. I don't know. It just happens." The warriors staggered back, their fear greater than their anger now. One dropped his weapon and fled into the mist. Another whispered, "She's cursed." "She's not human." Slowly the light faded. The pressure lifted. The pool grew calm again. Lyra collapsed to her knees, breathing hard, her hands shaking. Cale rushed to her side, helping her up. "Easy. You don't have to hide from me." Her voice cracked. "I cannot control it. When it comes, it takes me. It frightens me, Cale." He looked at her, his heart heavy. She was no weapon, no monster. She was a girl burdened by power she did not understand. Far above, thunder rolled. Cale glanced at the sky, and in his mind he heard the Overlord's laughter. Low, cruel, endless. It was as if the Overlord had wanted this moment, had waited for Lyra's power to reveal itself. Cale clenched his fists. He finally understood. The Overlord had not mocked him for choosing Lyra because she was useless. He had mocked him because he had chosen the one girl who could break the rules of the trials, and now everyone knew. The forest grew darker as the mist thickened again. The blue glow of the runes on the stones faded, leaving only the soft sound of the black pool behind them. Cale helped Lyra walk. Her steps were slow, her breathing heavy after the strange power had left her. He could feel her trembling, though her eyes were steady. They had barely gone a dozen steps into the shadowed trees when voices rose around them. Shapes appeared in the mist, warriors tired but alive, their companions at their sides. Their eyes burned with anger and their hands tightened on their weapons. "There they are," one growled. "The human and his cursed girl." Kale stopped, his hand moving to his blade. Lyra stood close to him, silent, her dark eyes watching the warriors carefully. Another stepped forward, tall and scarred, with a glowing spear in his hand. "We saw what she did at the pool. She is no girl. She is a danger to all of us. If she walks with you, human, then you are the same as her." Kale raised his chin, his voice steady. "She is not your enemy." Laughter broke from their throats, sharp and cruel. "Not our enemy? She bends the air, twists the stones, makes beasts obey. And you tell us she is nothing to fear? No, human. She is the most dangerous of all." Kale tightened his grip. He had expected this. The Overlord wanted it. He wanted the others to turn on them, to break them before the trial even ended. One warrior spat on the ground. "We should end her now, before she ends us." Lyra's lips parted, but she said nothing. She looked at the warriors, not with anger, not with fear, but with something stranger, pity. Kale stepped in front of her, his blade raised. "If you want her," he said coldly, "you will go through me." The mist seemed to hold its breath. For a moment no one moved. Then the scarred warrior gave a shout and the circle tightened. They attacked. The first came with a blade swinging low. Kale blocked, steel crashing against steel, sparks flying. Another lunged from the side with a spear, but Kale spun and knocked it away. His arms burned, his breath quickened, but he stood his ground. Behind him, Lyra whispered. Her words were soft, almost lost in the clash of metal, but Kale felt them. "Left," she murmured. He turned just in time to block a strike that would have cut deep into his side. Again she whispered. "Down." He dropped, and an arrow hissed above his head, vanishing into the mist. She guided him, her voice calm, her eyes far away, as if she saw the fight before it happened. Every time she spoke, Kale's blade was there, his defense perfect, his strikes precise. The warriors grew frustrated, their faces twisting with rage. "She is doing it again," one shouted. "She sees for him." They pressed harder. A spear grazed Kale's arm, blood spilling hot down his sleeve. A heavy fist struck his shoulder, sending him stumbling back. He gritted his teeth, holding the line. He would not let them touch her. And then, in the middle of the chaos, Lyra stepped forward. Her fragile figure stood between Kale and the warriors. Her hands trembled, but her voice rose clear. Enough. The air thickened. The mist swirled, pulling inward. The ground shook under their feet. The warriors froze, fear flashing in their eyes. The trees groaned, their branches twisting down like claws. The stones around them pulsed faintly with blue light. And in the shadows, the growls of beasts rose, dozens of them circling unseen. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly once more, that hidden starlight returning. She did not raise a hand, she did not strike, but the world itself bent toward her command. The warriors stepped back, terror on their faces. Their weapons shook in their hands. One whispered, "She is not weak. She is death." Kale stood at her side, staring at her in awe and fear. Even he could feel the weight of her power pressing against his chest, filling his lungs with fire. Then, just as suddenly, it ended. The mist loosened, the light faded, and the growls vanished into silence. Lyra staggered, her knees buckling. Kale caught her before she fell, holding her close. The warriors said nothing. Their anger had turned to fear, their fear to silence. One by one they backed away, retreating into the shadows of the forest. None dared face her again. When they were gone, Kale looked down at Lyra. Her face was pale, her breath shallow. She whispered, "I cannot control it. It comes when it wants." Kale's jaw tightened. He knew now what the Overlord had intended. By calling her the weakest, he had hidden her true nature. By mocking Kale's choice, he had set the others against them. The trial was not just survival, it was a trap. He lifted her gently, supporting her as they walked deeper into the forest. "Then we will control it together," he said quietly. Above them, thunder rolled once more, like distant laughter. The Overlord was watching, waiting, pleased with how his game unfolded. But Kale swore to himself. He would not let the Overlord win. Not with her. Not with Lyra. The forest stretched endlessly, its black trees twisting into the mist like claws reaching for the sky. Kale moved carefully, half carrying Lyra as they pressed forward. Her steps were weak, her breath uneven, but she did not complain. She leaned against him only when her body threatened to fall. Never before. Hours passed in silence. No warriors came. No beasts attacked. It was as if the forest itself had grown cautious of the girl who could bend its shadows. Finally, they reached a ruined tower, standing alone in the mist. Its stone walls were cracked, its top broken, but faint blue runes still pulsed across its surface. Lyra stopped at the sight, her dark eyes widening with something Cale had not seen before. Fear. "We should not be here," she whispered. Cale glanced at her. "You know this place?" Her lips trembled. She nodded slowly. "Yes, this is where I was made." Kyle froze. "Made?" Her hands clenched at her sides. Her voice shook, though it carried the weight of truth. "I was not born like the others. I am a failure, a mistake of the Overlord." The word struck him harder than any blade. He turned to her, confusion and disbelief clouding his mind. "What do you mean, a mistake?" Her eyes lowered, staring at the cracked stone of the tower. The Overlord wanted perfection. He created girls to be strong, fast, powerful, tools of war. Each was crafted with gifts, fire, light blades, but when it was my turn, her voice faltered. I was too weak. My body could not carry power. I was left behind, forgotten, called useless. Cale's chest tightened. He remembered the hall, the mocking laughter, the Overlord's cruel smile. It was all true. She had been cast aside as worthless, yet he had seen her do what no one else could. "But your power," Cale pressed, "the way you hear the forest, the way the world bends when you speak, that is not weakness." Her dark eyes lifted to him, filled with sorrow. "It is not the power he wanted. It is something else, something he fears. That is why he hides me behind shame, why he calls me broken. If others knew, they would see I am not his creation. I am his mistake." Thunder rolled in the distance, shaking the ground. The runes on the tower flared brighter, answering the sound. Cale realized the Overlord was near, perhaps listening to every word. Lyra shivered, wrapping her arms around herself. "When I lose control, the world listens. But it is not only beasts or stones. It is deeper." It whispers back. "Sometimes I hear voices, angry, crying, endless voices. I do not know if they are from the forest, or from something beyond." Cale felt a chill run down his spine. He wanted to comfort her, to tell her she was not alone. But before he could speak, a voice echoed through the ruined tower. "Correct." The word shook the stones. A red glow filled the air and the mist parted. The Overlord appeared, towering and silver-skinned, his red eyes blazing like fire. He walked slowly, his steps shaking the ground. Kyle moved in front of Lyra, blade raised, though he knew it would do little against such a being. The Overlord's smile was sharp, cruel. "At last, the little shadow remembers her truth. Yes, human, she is no gift. She is my failure. I made her weak, and in her weakness something unnatural was born." Lyra's voice trembled, but she stood tall. "You fear me." The Overlord laughed, a sound that cracked the air. "Fear, no, child. I delight in you. You are the perfect trick. A weakness dressed as strength. A danger dressed as innocence. I left you among the others to see who would choose you. And this human was foolish enough to do so." Kyle's grip tightened. "You wanted this. You wanted me to choose her." The Overlord's red eyes glowed brighter. "Of course. The trials are not games of survival. They are my experiments. I wanted to see if your human heart would see past the surface. And it did. Now the real game begins." He lifted a long silver hand, and the runes on the tower blazed with crimson light. The ground split and black smoke rose, carrying whispers that clawed at Cale's mind. Lyra cried out, clutching her head, her body shaking violently. Cale caught her, holding her close. "Fight it," he urged. "You are not his mistake. You are more than what he made you." But her eyes were wide, glowing faintly with that hidden light. Her voice cracked with terror. "Cale, if I lose control here, I could break everything." The Overlord's laughter rolled across the ruins, deep and endless. "Yes, break everything. That is your destiny, Shadow Girl. And when you do, all will kneel to me." Kyle looked into her eyes, refusing to let go. "No, you are not his shadow. You are extraordinary, and you will not kneel." The storm above roared. The tower shook, and for the first time Lyra's power began to rise, not from fear, not from accident, but from choice. The ruined tower shook as if the world itself wanted to tear apart. The runes burned red, The air cracked with lightning, and the Overlord's laughter echoed like thunder. Kyle held Lyra in his arms, her body trembling, her eyes glowing faintly with that strange light that no weapon could match. "Rise, Shadow Girl," the Overlord commanded. His voice filled every corner of the forest. "Show him what you are. Show him what I made you to be." Lyra's breath came in sharp gasps. She pressed her hands to her head, shaking violently. Whispers flooded her mind, hundreds, thousands, all speaking at once. Some screamed. Some cried. Some begged. They were not voices of the living, but of something older, deeper. She wanted to close her ears, but they were inside her, pulling her apart. Kyle gripped her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "Lyra, listen to me, not him." Her dark eyes flickered between fear and fury. "I can't. They are too many. If I let go, Kale, I will destroy everything. Even you." Kyle shook his head. His voice was firm, unyielding. "Then destroy me. But don't let him own you. Don't let him decide who you are. You are not his failure. You are not his shadow. You are more than he can ever understand." For a moment, the voices screamed louder, threatening to tear her apart. But Kale's words pierced through the storm. Slowly, her trembling hands dropped to her sides. Her eyes still glowed, but now the light grew steady, no longer wild. She turned toward the Overlord. "I am not your mistake." The Overlord's smile vanished. His red eyes narrowed. "You dare?" The runes flared brighter. From the ground, black smoke rose, shaping into twisted beasts with claws like swords and faces full of fire. They lunged at Kale and Lyra, dozens of them howling as they came. Kyle stepped forward, blade ready. "Stay behind me," but Lyra shook her head. Her voice was calm now, strong. "No, not this time." She raised her hands and the air itself bent. The beasts froze mid-charge, their claws inches from Kale's throat. The mist around them swirled like a storm, drawn into her body, her eyes shining brighter than ever. "Go back," she whispered. The ground split, and the beasts screamed as they were dragged into the cracks, their bodies dissolving into smoke. The tower walls shook, stones falling, but Lyra did not flinch. The Overlord roared, his voice cracking the sky. "Enough!" He raised his silver hand, sending a wave of red fire crashing toward them. The heat was blinding, the power unstoppable. Kale braced for the end. But Lyra stepped in front of him. Her voice rose, clear and strong. No more, the fire hit her and shattered. It broke like glass against an unseen wall, scattering into sparks that died in the mist. The Overlord staggered, his red eyes wide with shock. Lyra's power surged higher. The runes turned from red to blue, breaking his hold. The whispers inside her became one voice, no longer screaming but singing, rising like a tide. Her hair lifted, her frail body glowing with light that was not weak but endless. Kale stared in awe. She was no longer the weakest. She was extraordinary. The Overlord snarled, his silver skin cracking with rage. "You are mine. You will always be mine." Lyra looked at him, her dark eyes calm, glowing with power. "I was never yours." She raised both hands and the tower exploded with light. The ground shook, the sky split, and the Overlord was thrown back, his body dissolving into smoke and shadow. His laughter twisted into a scream, fading into the storm above. Silence followed. The ruins were gone, the runes dark. The beasts vanished. Only Kale and Lyra remained, standing in the mist. Kale stepped closer, his voice low. "Lyra, you did it." Her glow faded slowly. Her knees buckled, and Kale caught her before she fell. She looked up at him, her face pale but peaceful. "It's not over," she whispered. "He is not gone. He will come again." Kale tightened his hold on her. "Then we'll face him together." She gave the smallest smile, fragile yet real. Together. The mist around them shifted as if the forest itself bowed to her will. The path ahead opened, glowing faintly with blue light. The trial was not finished, but they had survived what no one else could. As Kale carried her forward, thunder rolled once more in the distance. It was faint, but within it a whisper lingered, the Overlord's voice promising return. "You don't know what she really is yet." Kale ignored it. He walked on, holding the girl who had been called the weakest, yet had proven stronger than them all. And though the trials were far from over, he knew one truth beyond all doubt: she was extraordinary.